Welcome to Happiness in the City. This is Barbara, and it's really great to be with you today. Today, I'd like to focus on the theme of how to deal with difficult situations. And when I was thinking about the lamentations we are going through these days, I thought that one of the ways that we may be helped is to understand how to deal with sorrow and with difficulties in our lives from the point of view of connection of politics to God. And this is something that I've learned to think about since the whole world was covered by sorrow of pandemics. And at that time I realized that we don't know how to deal with this. Eventually, we got lucky and pharmaceutical industries created a remedy, but this showed me in a very powerful way that we are missing something as mankind, that we are not as strong as we tend to think about ourselves, and we are not immortal. God is immortal, and we have to deal with the nature of life, the beginning, development, and the end. And I realized then that there's something I need to learn, that just like most of us, I did not understand the high power, the connection between politics and God as a solution to a lot of the limits of our understanding of authority and relationships. So I've been reading the books of the Bible, and especially powerful for my purpose are Psalms, because they were written by a king. So they were written by a political leader that was empowered by God himself, that received authority from God. But he was a political leader. He was running a city. He was running a country and people. And then I reached Psalm 69, and this psalm is very powerful. It's lamentation of a political leader to God and asking God for remedies in his difficult situations. So we see at the beginning how he asks God, "Save me, O God, for the waters are come in unto my soul." So here is recognition that political leadership is not some thing, but it is a person with a soul. And the soul has certain needs. And here we see that waters can come unto the soul. And this shook me up when I realized that I focus only on things that are material, misses the place that can be healed by God, the soul, and that ignorance of matters concerning the soul can lead to disasters, like in this particular case, flooding. The waters came into the king's soul. Then he says, I sink in deep mire where there is no standing. I'm come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. So you see very powerfully in this passage that politics is not something that can be only dealt with by using reason. There's presence of the soul in a political leader, and if this soul is in danger, it creates destruction. So the leader here doesn't attack his city, doesn't attack his people. He turns to God for help. So this is something that shook me up powerfully, because like you, most of you, we were taught that think about separation of state and church, and separation of church and reading the education, all of those things. And here we see a leader who is responsible for authority in his country. He is the one who is leading his people, and he is overwhelmed with dangers to his soul. So how can we separate the soul from the leader and have the leader survive it? It's impossible. But the soul also has certain needs. The soul of a political leader has certain nature and has capacities, but also can be endangered. So this started making me think that this whole thinking about separations of the city and the church is an error in logic, because how can you separate the leader from God in the context of the state? So the church has its own dynamics, synagogue has its own dynamics, but here we are in the realm of the state run by a political leader, and he has a soul, and that soul can only be held by God. So that concept of separation of church and state doesn't make any sense, because it is in a different dimension that politics is defined when it focuses the leaders' conversations on God. So church becomes a place of worship. In Christianity, it's body of Christ. Synagogue becomes a place of worship, but the state continues relationship with God, even though it is differently shaped than a church or a synagogue. So this is the solution to my questions about how to understand the help that can come from God to political leadership. And today we desperately need it. we have political leadership in American government that is in a state of lamentation. Leaders, on one hand, don't know how to solve their current problems. On the other hand, they are sinking. Their souls are overcome with floods. People they rule, they are in desperation. There are many programs that were suspended that are essential for survival of people. So now the people are also in deep waters where floods overcome them. So this passage is not only about the leadership of the king, but also of what can happen to people that he leads. Because when the leader is overcome with dangers, then what will happen to his people? They are overcome with dangers too. So in this particular psalm, we see that there is the dimension of politics, of life in the city, that depends directly on God. So it's higher than any limits that could be imposed on it. So I think it's beautiful because it means that we can get solution to American government problems by asking God to take American authority into relationship with him. That means all leaders. And I think that is a moment in history now that is also powerfully in need of touching God's heart on that. And I think that what is happening today to American people is touching God's heart. America was created as his place, as his country, and he is open to that call for him to help America. And I think that we need to understand that America also is a country that is very easily influenced by God. People massively read the Bibles. There's a vision of biblical words in America. There's hundreds of years of history of Spirit of God in America. But what America didn't have is that it never had the state that would be understood as a dimension of relationship with God. European countries had that. Sometimes they abandoned those ways of understanding the state, but they do have tradition and they have heritage of it. But America never had it. America was created as church, and all the political administration came from the church institutions. So what I'm asking God is for the creative miracle to bring in the vision and dimension of political understanding to all Americans, all people who live on American land, that he is the one who is the saving leader, that he is the one who can lift all people from the floods that overcome them or that overflow them. And when we continue this psalm, I encourage you to look at it, we also see how the leader is desperate in the way he has to deal also with his enemies. So first there are the aspects of what is happening to his soul, but then he has to deal with enemies, and that those enemies want to destroy him, and they are trying to destroy him wrongfully, and they are mighty, and then he cries in desperation to the Lord that those enemies are forcing him to restore to them which he did not take away. So here is a place of ownership. How do we deal in political dimension with the fact that many people are forced to restore something they didn't take away, that they didn't seize? So this is one of the one of the most sensitive political arguments today, is how to shield and defend the right ownership, whether it is within family traditions or land or identity. There are many demands today to force America to restore something that they never seize, that is not American. And I think that we have to ask God for guidance on this, because people who are about 400 million, 350 million cannot deal with restoration of things that they didn't seize, that they didn't take away. And I feel that a lot of Americans are forced to do that these days. And in practice, this means there's not enough for Americans. We have a situation with SNAP, which is the most brilliant program ever, that stabilized food situations at the level of poverty, so we don't have despair and lack at the lowest level of population's need. And that program was stopped. And suddenly 44 million people are going through lamentations. Guess whom are they asking for help? They are praying to God. And I think that my program today is part of the attempt to ask God for mercy on America and to give us his shield. And as King David here cries to God to help him not to be forced to restore what he did not take away, that I feel the whole nation is crying to God to help us with that. And I think that God is going to answer those cries, and he's going to restore the people of America back to his leadership. It will not be within the context of the church, but it will be in that new dimension of political leadership that directly connects to him, to the Lord. And I think that this is what will be happening in this season, the Thanksgiving season, Christmas season. And I believe that that will be a wonderful example for the whole world to turn to God for the needs of particular regions and countries, and to stop robbing America, and to be sensitive about the massive pain and suffering that overwhelmed America this month. Children going hungry, mothers, most of them single mothers, just terrified about how they're going to feed their children. Old people shaking because suddenly they don't have their food stamps. The store suppliers will have to throw a lot of that unsold food away that will rot. And there seems to be no help coming from any place. So I ask God to have mercy on political leaders in America and to lift them out from that difficult situation and to the place that He creates for them so that they can have that direct relationship with God. And I think that this is what will be the solution also to continuity of American government, because American government then will have its own space, place of continuity that will be secured and guaranteed by God Himself. So there will be certain things within the context of American government that God can provide, and that is, of course, safety of the souls, life, time, virtue, advice, opportunity for conversations with Him. So just like the ancient kings, like King David, then all political leaders in the government become kings. All people become kings because they can have direct access to God, King of Kings. So the whole nation becomes nation of kings, because you have to be king to talk to God. So as I am very grateful for those words that I can share with you, I ask God for that ennoblement in virtue of all American people, all American administration, institutions, all political speech, communications, and I ask God that He will show us how to be nation of kings and how to communicate with Him as kings. In this way, we all become kings. And when we all become kings, and God is our King of Kings, we have continuity of political life that doesn't depend on limits of human wills, but it only depends on God's will and love and power, authority, and ownership over our destinies. And may God bless the land of the United States. May God bless all politicians, Congress, Senate, all offices, all political connections, and may God arise in America, and may the vision of divine wealth and beauty lift us out of that sorrow, pain, and suffering that Americans are currently experiencing, and let us all know the virtue of political strength that comes from us having direct connection to God Himself. And I'm talking about every human being, because this is an opportunity to rise above our limits and connect with immortal God who created us all and who can show us the right way of dealing with wealth, dealing with money, properties, investments, values. And then He also knows how to provide the right measure and the right way to understand what is to be restored and what shouldn't be restored as if it were taken because it belongs rightfully to a particular person or country.